Hello, I'm the Doctor. Welcome to DoctorGeek. Today, we're discussing Series 10, Episode 4, Knock Knock. We open with a knock on Bill's door as her friend Shireen has arrived to introduce her to her future roommates. We meet Felicity, Harry, Pavel, and Paul, and join them on their search for an affordable 6-bedroom house. After many disappointments, they are approached by a mysterious man who asks them if they need a place to live and shows them a huge mansion straight out of a horror movie. The landlord tells them that the tower is unsafe, but the rest of the house is theirs if they would like it. Bill is the only one out of the group suspicious of why such a large home would be available for so cheap, but her new friends are so excited about the place that she agrees to sign the contract with them. That night, Pavel decides to move in early, and after setting up his record player, he goes to inspect a strange noise. As the credits begin, so do Pavel's screams, as he becomes the first victim of this mysterious house. After the opening credits, we find Bill in her room as she finishes packing for her move out. Right on cue, the doctor arrives and materializes the TARDIS right around Bill's pile of suitcases. Bill joins the doctor inside the TARDIS and tells him that he should rent out the TARDIS as a removal service, but the doctor says that that's beneath him as a Time Lord. Bill, having never heard this term before, asks what a Time Lord is, originally thinking that it's his job, but he tells her that it's his species. Bill finds this hilarious and asks him if they wear big hats and robes, but he corrects her and tells her that it's the collars that are big. They continue to banter for a bit more before regeneration gets brought up, but the doctor saves that topic for another day, a subtle nod and painful reminder to what we know is coming at the end of Series 10. They arrive at Bill's new home, and the doctor is surprised at its size. Bill admits that she was skeptical too at first, but it turns out that it's fine, and the house is really just a bit drafty. The doctor seems interested in this detail, and watches the trees sway as he wets his finger to test the breeze. Bill tells the doctor that she will be fine from here on, and he can leave now, but the doctor offers to help her move in, which she clearly does not want. Bill introduces the doctor to her friends as her granddad, which the doctor takes immediate offense to, thinking that at worst he looks old enough to be her father, so she starts calling him grandfather. I really appreciated this nod to Susan Foreman, the doctor's granddaughter and first companion, who's already been referenced a few times this series. Bill once again thanks the doctor for his help and tells him that his job is done. He reluctantly leaves as Bill begins to move her boxes upstairs with the help of Paul, who immediately begins to flirt with her. As they pass Pavel's room, they can hear loud music coming from the door, and Paul tells Bill that he's known Pavel to just sit in his room listening to music for days. Bill thanks Paul for his help, and he again hits on her, but she just brushes it off and he awkwardly leaves. Bill pulls out a picture of her mother and shows it around the room. As she hangs it on her wall, the house makes a series of eerie creaks and groans. Bill talks herself down, trying to turn off the part of her brain that's gotten used to fighting aliens and monsters over the past few weeks. That night, the new tenants are in their living room, complaining about the creepy noises in the house, when they all hear a sound from down the hall. Bill demonstrates the fearlessness she's picked up in her travels with the doctor and volunteers to go and check it out, with the others following closely behind. After opening a door in the kitchen, they find the doctor snooping around in the dark. He's been inspecting the house for them and has made a list of what the house is missing, including central heating, modern power outlets, and the washing machine. And he recommends that they all find a new place to live. However, the students are way too happy with the cheap cost and large rooms to take his advice. Bill tells him to just let it go, but the doctor brings up that the trees outside of the house on their way in were moving, despite there being absolutely no wind. Suddenly, the landlord shows up, creepy as always, and asks if there are any issues with the house. As they all rattle off a list of things that are wrong, the doctor looks on curiously, Despite seeming to be in a perfectly good mood, when Harry asks the landlord how they get into the tower, he angrily yells back, "You don't!" Clearly, there is something in the tower that he does not want to be seen. The landlord says he will attend to their needs in the morning, and asks the doctor if he will be staying the night as well. The doctor says yes, despite Bill's protests, and begins to question the landlord on who the Prime Minister is, clearly suspicious of where this man has come from. Instead of answering his question, the landlord suggests that he leave the house tonight, promising to watch over Bill for him. And after he pulls out a tuning fork from his pocket, a tool used for tuning instruments, he strikes it against the wall, and with a smile, leaves. Shireen, remembering one more thing she wanted to mention to him, runs out after him, but when she opens the door just a few seconds later, he's already gone. They are really laying hard on the horror movie genre this week. Bill once again asks the doctor to leave, but he says if she's going to bed, he can stay up and hang out with Felicity and Harry, which they are more than okay with. Bill pulls the doctor aside and tells him that he's being paranoid and she'd prefer he leave. She appreciates that he takes her on adventures in the TARDIS, but this is the part of her life that he's not in. The doctor says he understands, but then asks her why her friend hasn't been seen in days and has loud music coming from his room. Bill says he just does that, based on what she's learned from Paul, but the doctor says nobody just does anything. Like it or not, he's not leaving. As the doctor stays downstairs with Felicity and Harry, Shireen and Paul take Bill upstairs. Paul, once again, tries his luck at flirting with Bill, but this time she completely shuts him down, telling him that she only goes for girls. Paul, realizing he has never had a chance, doesn't let it bother him, and tells the girls good night, taking this opportunity to scare them a little before closing his door. However, after a few moments, Paul begins to scream, and as the girls try to help him, no amount of force will open his door. Suddenly, the house starts knocking, creaking, and banging all around them, and Bill and Shireen start to run. Downstairs, the doctor notices that all of the doors have fused shut. Despite still looking like doors, there is no longer a seam in the wood. As even the shutters begin to slam shut around them, Shireen has a panic attack and runs to the kitchen, forcing open a closed shutter and escaping through the window, despite the doctor's best attempts to stop her. Harry angrily asks the doctor why he tried to prevent her from leaving, before both of them hear Felicity's screams. Harry asks if what's coming after them is outside or inside, but the doctor tells him it's both. Curiously, when Harry says he's scared, the doctor says, "Don't be, it doesn't help." While I appreciate this nod to the fact that most people in horror movies are screaming their heads off the whole time, this line kind of annoyed me because of the memorable line from the Series 8 story Listen, where the doctor says fear is a superpower. However, this is immediately followed by the doctor knocking twice on the wall and asking, "Who's there?" So, that's kind of funny. Back upstairs, Bill and Shireen are finally checking in on Pavel, and what they find is pretty horrifying. The wall of Pavel's room has nearly completely consumed him, and he is now a grotesque form sticking out from the wood. The record that he put on just before being attacked is still playing because it's skipping, repeating the same few seconds of music over and over. As Bill and Shireen try to help Pavel, the landlord appears, asking if everything is okay. Bill and Shireen are completely stunned at his appearance as he moves towards the record player to stop the music. Once the repetition is stopped, which the landlord calls a distraction, the wall begins to move and finishes consuming the rest of Pavel. The landlord now marvels at the beauty of the smooth wood. Bill asks him why he's doing this, and the landlord replies that everyone must pay their dues. Except for him, of course. He pulls his tuning fork out of his pocket and strikes it on the wall, and Bill and Shireen run away once again. Bill rationalizes that the door to the tower must be at the end of the hallway that they're currently in, and finding a bookcase there, begins to pull on books until she finds a secret door. It's a little strange that this door isn't fused shut like every other door is, but it's a secret door, so I guess they forgot that. Back in the kitchen, the doctor is inspecting the walls, trying to determine the source of the creaking. After a good deal of prodding, the wood opens up and a tiny insect crawls out. The doctor is delighted and hypothesizes that the creature is interacting with the wood on a molecular level and is surely alien. He affectionately names the creatures dryads and tries to capture it, before Harry brings to his attention the fact that thousands more are currently crawling out of the wood. With nowhere to run, the doctor drags Harry into the pantry before revealing that it's actually a dumbwaiter and sends them down to the bottom of the building. As the two of them explore the dark hallways of the basement, they find a room full of boxes and rental agreements. They discover that everything is from 1997, 20 years prior, and conveniently, there are pictures. The prior tenants documented every moment, from when they arrived, to when they were terrified, to when they were attacked. After a bit more investigating, the two discover more boxes, and see that this happens every 20 years. Suddenly, the landlord appears again, apparently being able to move through the house as easily as the dryads, and instead of just killing the doctor and Harry, he answers their questions. He tells them that the past tenants are still in the house, just locked in the walls. He tells the doctor that years ago, his daughter was dying, and the creatures saved her. The doctor asks if she's still in the house, and the landlord confirms it, but at that moment, Harry can't take anymore, and he makes a run for it. The doctor tries to stop him, but it's too late. Harry gets to the stairs before his foot is grabbed by the wood. Once again, the landlord strikes his tuning fork, and the dryads consume poor Harry. The doctor, looking on in horror, asks if Bill is okay, but the landlord says he should be more worried about himself. The doctor pleads with the landlord, telling him he may be able to help his daughter, and this is enough to buy him a ticket to the tower. Speaking of the tower, Bill and Shireen are already there and discover a bedroom at the top. From behind a curtain, a girl's voice excitedly calls out to them, but what they see catches them by surprise. The girl, whose name is Eliza, is made completely out of wood. Eliza tells Bill and Shireen that it's been such a long time since she's had visitors, and they can see why, as she has the dryads crawling all over her. As one of the dryads runs past Shireen, she instinctively crushes it with her foot. But unfortunately, it takes more than that to kill these creatures, and Shireen becomes the next victim as she is consumed by the creatures in the floor. Eliza tells a horrified Bill that she understands it's upsetting, but her father tells her she must survive. The landlord takes his cue and enters the room with the doctor, telling his daughter not to fear the doctor as he is here to help. As the doctor consoles a visibly upset Bill, he informs her that the landlord has been keeping his daughter alive for over 70 years, and he told him he could help. The doctor wonders aloud how this situation even came to be, assuming that the landlord found the insects and brought them to his sick daughter to amuse her, not realizing what they would do. He finds a music box on the girl's desk and guesses that it was the high-pitched sounds from this that triggered the dryads, and also clued in the landlord on how to control them. However, Bill tells the doctor that this theory doesn't make much sense, for a few reasons. First off, why would a father bring his daughter insects? The doctor doesn't follow this logic, as he thinks that insects are fascinating. So, Bill moves on to her next point. How could he have been keeping his daughter alive for over 70 years if he's so old? Suddenly, everything clicks, and despite the landlord's protests, the doctor hits the nail on the head. This man isn't Eliza's father, he's her son. As a child, playing in the garden, he found the insects and took them to his sick mother to show her. The rest is just as the doctor originally assumed. The music box activated the insects, and they slowly turned his mother into wood. But, realizing that they were also curing her, he protected them. Realizing the truth, Eliza is horrified at the children that have died to protect her. Apparently, when she thought that her father was saying it was okay, she was fine with it. But now that she knows it's her son, she's mysteriously gained a conscience. Angrily, the landlord pulls out his tuning fork and uses it to call his dryads. upset at himself for trusting the doctor who has only brought him and his mother pain. The doctor pleads with Eliza, telling her that this will continue for as long as she lets it. She doesn't know what she can do, but the doctor reminds her that she's the parent and she's in charge. He asks her what's the point of surviving if you have to hide away from the world. With these reminders, she takes control of the Dryads, and while embracing her son, allows them to consume them both. As soon as the two of them are gone, the whole house begins to shake, and the doctor and Bill make a run for it. But first, they rescue Shireen, whose hand is sticking out from the floor. It seems Eliza has managed to reverse the process of the Dryads and save the most recent casualties. One by one, the previous victims of the house rejoin the doctor and Bill, much like how the main character of a horror film will stumble upon every one of her dead friends as she runs away. And everyone makes their way outside. Looking on in sadness at the loss of their security deposit, the group watch as their new home crumbles into dust. The doctor, walking to his TARDIS, wishes them the best. As the episode ends, we see Nardole by the vault door. The doctor notices Nardole is being cheerful, which he's very against, but Nardole is just happy that the doctor has managed to find himself an adventure without traveling in the TARDIS. The doctor dismisses Nardole from his task and makes his way to the vault door as the sound of a piano makes its way through. The doctor knocks, asking whoever is inside if they want any Mexican food, since he's brought along some dinner. He receives no answer until he tells whoever is inside that he has a story to tell where lots of young people get eaten, and we are left to continue to wonder who could be inside the vault that would appreciate such a story. So, overall, I'm not a huge fan of this episode, as I see it as one of the weakest in the series. I really liked the premise, but the payoff just wasn't there at the end for me, and everything just got wrapped up a bit too nicely. But I'll start with what I liked about it. First off, it has to be said that David Suchet as the landlord was absolutely the high point of this episode. He played the part of the creepy landlord perfectly, and oftentimes just his facial expressions alone conveyed more than any one of his lines did. Seriously, go back and watch just his face in either the living room scene or the final scene, and you can see such a huge range of emotions in that man's face. He's just so animated. I loved how we never even learned the name of the landlord. The creepy role could have been given to almost anyone, but by giving it to such a huge star, they made sure it would be a home run. And it's really great that Doctor Who is a show that so many phenomenal actors want to be a part of. This mysterious role of a creepy landlord will cement itself as one of the best actor performances in New Who. I also, for the most part, really liked the premise of the episode. Doctor Who does a horror movie is a really cool concept, and the way that they explain the creaking in the house as these dryad creatures was really clever, I thought. Seeing the Doctor inserted into a slasher movie where people are dying one by one was interesting to see, even if the resolution didn't live up to the hype. So, as far as what I didn't like, this mainly has to do with the end of the episode and just some little details that irked me. First off, multiple times in the episode, the landlord pulls out his tuning fork and strikes it against the wall. Yet never, not even the first time it happens when they have no reason to suspect him of anything, never did they say anything about it. Like, hey man, what's with the tuning fork? Or even after he leaves, say like, what was that thing he was hitting on the wall? What do you think he was trying to do? But no. This strange behavior is just overlooked, and I thought that was a little bit weird. The supporting cast in this episode wasn't bad, but there wasn't really any breakout stars in the group of friends that Bill had roomed with. Felicity, Pavel, Harry, Paul, and Shireen never really did anything that would make us like them, or even care if they died. So when they did, it really didn't have much of an impact on us. With the exception of Shireen, I didn't even get the feeling that Bill liked any of these people. And then at the end, when they were all brought back to life, it didn't really make any sense and just kind of cheapened the episode. Finally, Eliza herself. While I was on board for the premise of the episode, the reasoning behind it, I felt, was kind of stupid. The idea that this kid would find alien insects 70 years ago and then care for his sick mother all that time? Who watched over him while his mother was sick? And how did no one come to check on him to discover what him and his mother were up to? Surely someone knew that she was sick. Also, if the insects have been here for 70 years, why haven't they managed to spread to other houses? How has he managed to keep these creatures contained in such an old mansion? And why do they only need to feed every 20 years? I assume that the landlord's creepiness is supposed to be based on the fact that he's a child in a man's body, based on the fact that he never really got to grow up. But they never explicitly explain this, or explain why the mother lost her memory in the first place, or for that matter, how long it even took to happen. I know I always complain about the lack of exposition given to the enemies every week, but this kind of lazy storytelling really bothers me, and it's been especially prevalent in Series 10. Eliza had almost no screen time, despite being a very important character to understanding the story, and because of that, the ending felt very rushed after we spent the majority of the episode getting to know a bunch of people that would soon die and ultimately don't matter at all to the direction of Series 10. It also occurs to me, as I write this, that the episode has a lot in common with the other episode this season that I didn't really enjoy, Smile. In both episodes, the Doctor and Bill meet someone that they think they can trust, who puts them into a situation where small creatures that completely surround them can annihilate them at a moment's notice. Overall, Knock Knock is a decent story that introduces a cool new concept for a villain, but ultimately does not deliver in its finale. The role of the landlord is played brilliantly, but the rushed ending and lack of satisfying details leave me feeling underwhelmed. I give Knock Knock 6 creepy landlords out of 10. So, that was my review of Series 10, Episode 4. Be sure to like and subscribe for new reviews and Doctor Who news every week. On the side, you can find my review for Series 10, Episode 3, Thin Ice. So check that out if you haven't already, and thank you for being my companion on this journey today. I'm the Doctor. Bye for now.